Okay, so hopefully by now you have read the course of study and you know how this program works. And that is school 6 days a week, and you do math, typically 2 hours, writing 1 hour, and reading for 2 hours. And that's it. That's it. So you might be thinking to yourself, how is my child going to sit there and do all that work by themselves for that long? Especially if you're coming from a homeschool background where maybe you did a lot of different subjects and only spent 15 to 20 minutes on each one, bouncing around and doing this and doing that. It can seem like a very strange concept to just sit at a desk and work for that many hours. However, you can do it and it works, and it might take a little time to get used to, and you don't have to do this all at once. You can start slow and increment the time as you go on. For example, some parents really find it beneficial when they start the reading aspect of it. Maybe they just read for 20 minutes first. Then they bump it up next week to 30 minutes. And then they just slowly, gradually keep bumping up the time until they get to 120 minutes. I heard this in the group. I thought it was a great idea. 10 minutes for each year of their lives. So by the time they get to 12 years old, they're doing the 120 minutes, which is the 2 hours. I think that's a great formula. You might want to try that. As far as doing math, sitting on their own, they're obviously engaged the whole time that they're doing the math lesson, so that's not a problem. And then as far as writing, if it seems too overwhelming for a child to just sit down and write for an hour, then again, start slow. Just have them do copy work, copy from great books. One of my daughters really likes to copy from the Book of Knowledge sometimes, so I let her do that front and back, and we'll talk more about it in the writing video, front and back, double space. So they can just copy at first and then maybe just write a paragraph and a couple paragraphs, and then it turns into a whole essay. So again, you can gradually increase until you get there. But again, just realize that that is the goal. That is the way that the results of the Robinson curriculum were achieved, was by doing this method of 2 hours math, 1 hour writing, 2 hours reading. And again, there's obviously flexibility there with your family. And as far as the 6 days a week, some families choose to maybe just do math on Saturday, and then the rest is free reading time, or they do sports, or they do other things. So obviously there's some flexibility for you to tailor this to your family. Just know, generally, if you want to achieve the same sort of results, then this was the methodology used. This was the program that was used. So try to stick with it as close as you can. Now, what will you be doing during their school time? We will talk about it more in the math video, but children can correct their own math problems and fix the ones that they got wrong. However, one thing that you do need to be involved with is the writing aspect of it to correct their essays. You want to give them good feedback. You want to encourage them. You want to help them improve their writing skills. So you are going to be involved there and correct it and hand it back to them. They can either rewrite it or they can just fix the errors. You might want to be involved with the grammar and the spelling. Again, this is something that they can read on their own if you'd like, or you can be involved. As far as books, they obviously read on their own. However, for the younger children just starting out, I do like for them to read to me the first books, like the McGuffey readers, all the way until they get to the first Arthur Scott Bailey book. Then that's when I let them loose and they read on their own. And we can talk a little bit about reading comprehension and things like that in the reading video. But as far as your involvement, I mean, you can have the younger children read to you those first couple of book titles. But then as far as really the school day goes, my main objective is to help the younger children, the ones who still need to learn how to read and need to get prepared for Saxon 5-4. So while the older children are doing math on their own, writing their own essay, reading their books, I am taking care of the household and also teaching the younger children how to read, doing their reading lessons, phonics lessons, and also helping them get their math facts memorized. A lot of it they can do themselves. However, I test them to see where they're at, if they have them memorized, what I've given them. And that's really it as far as my involvement in the homeschooling day. Now, I do like to still read aloud to my children, and I think that is very important. I talk a lot about that on my YouTube channel. So in the afternoons, we have a lot of read aloud time, and before bedtime, I read aloud even to the older children who are reading independently on their own. We still read aloud together. We do some Bible study and character training. So I am very much still involved in my children's education. However, it's just done in a much more efficient way, where they are learning how to be lifelong independent learners, and I am freed up to focus on the younger children that need more guidance, more help. And this just is such a great way to keep mom stress-free, not burnt out, not overwhelmed. It's such a great way for the kids to learn and have self-confidence. And it's just basically a win-win all the way around. All right, so time to check in. How are you doing right now? How are you feeling? Are you still feeling a little overwhelmed? Trust me, this is very simple, and once you get the ball rolling, you will see how easy it is to implement and how everything just kind of falls into place and it really works. So now let's really dive in and talk about each component. And don't worry, there's only 3. We're going to talk about each component and all the ins and outs of it, and some tips, recommendations, and then we will have a frequently asked questions at the end. So stay tuned.